But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
The Republican nominee for Vice President JD Vance had the perfect response for people criticizing former President Trump doing a ceremony with the Gold Star families on Monday. This is in regards to the 13 service members who were killed during the Afghanistan withdrawal, the debacle that happened under the watch of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And just the disgusting coverage about this really makes you hate the media.
We're learning new details about an incident that turned physical at Arlington National Cemetery during Donald Trump's visit there on Monday. It happened while Trump was in Section 60, the burial site for recent U.S. casualties. Trump suggesting on Truth Social that the problem stemmed from his campaign's use of photography. CNN's Elena Treen has more on that from Washington. What happened here?
Right. Well, Sarah, so a lot of back and forth from both sides, the Arlington National Cemetery, but also the Trump campaign on what exactly did happen. But what we know is that some people who worked at the cemetery had blocked members of Donald Trump's team, members of his campaign on Monday from attending and participating in some of the wreath ceremony when Donald Trump was laying some of the wreaths on Monday to honor the 13 fallen U.S. service members who were at Kabul's Abbey Gate during the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, I'm going to break down some of this for you. So the big question here is about whether or not Donald Trump was able to, participate in partisan events, as the cemetery calls it, while at that visit, particularly in this area called Section 30. Now, we did hear from Donald Trump. He posted, as you mentioned, Sarah, on Truth Social. And as you said, he did seem to argue that perhaps this was because of photography. This is what he wrote on Truth Social. And they also included a post or a letter from the families who said that they had supported this effort. He had said, quote, "We had given our approval for President Trump's official videographer and photographer to attend the event, ensuring these sacred moments of remembrance were respectfully captured, and so we can cherish these memories forever." And that is from the families of some of the service members who were killed during that Afghanistan withdrawal a couple years ago. We also did hear from Chris LaCivita. This is Donald Trump's co-campaign manager. He's also someone who is a veteran. He said, quote, "President Trump was there on the invitation of the Abbey Gate Gold Star families to honor their loved ones who gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country. For a despicable individual to physically prevent President Trump's team from accompanying him to this solemn event is a disgrace and does not deserve to represent the hallowed grounds of Arlington National Cemetery." So again, Sarah, a lot of back and forth here. I do think the big takeaway is that this was a moment that, of course, Donald Trump's team, they recognized was a solemn moment. This was something to honor the family members of the fallen soldiers, and has been a bit tainted now by this dispute over whether or not Donald Trump had violated federal law by making this a political event.
Okay, that last point that she said, by making it a political event, he did not give any speeches. He did not say anything about Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. Actually, there is no comment from him during the event, before the event, after the event. He didn't take any questions whatsoever. So I don't understand how this was a political event. This was a remembrance. This was an example of what every single commander-in-chief should be doing. And the only reason why he's getting any type of backlash is because they have to find something to discredit him on. Even when he does the right thing, there's got to be something wrong with it. This is another example of Trump derangement syndrome, unfortunately. Now, the problems around this situation get even more delusional when you hear people doing stuff like this.
the Trump campaign attended this event on Monday. It was to the anniversary of the death of some American service members in Afghanistan as part of the evacuation effort there 3 years ago. They're trying to make that a major problem for the Biden-Harris administration in the context of this campaign. But I know a lot of military veterans were very uncomfortable with the idea that Trump was there at all, and that he even at one point posed for a photograph with family members with a big smile and thumbs up on their face. Now, we should note some of the family members were doing the same, but that's their right. Donald Trump, it's seemingly very strange that he would do the same. And some of these veterans were sort of just aghast that even in any way, shape, or form, Arlington National Cemetery, arguably the most sacred place in our country, was being used as a backdrop for a political purpose.
Yeah, no, that's them projecting their Trump derangement syndrome. That's what's happening. You see, it doesn't matter what Trump does. He could do the most honest thing. He could save a baby out of a burning building, and they're going to turn that story into, oh, he was politicizing saving the baby out of the burning building. He's selfish. It's all about him. That's how deranged they are. It's just a disgusting take that the media has, especially like MSNBC. These people are unhinged whenever it comes to Trump. But so is CNN. And what CNN will like to do is they'll bring on people who are in the military who come on for political reasons to attack Trump, like this guy.
Well, I think it's totally inappropriate that Donald Trump has used that part of Arlington Cemetery that way for a partisan political purpose. But it's deeper than that. First of all, we know that in private, he doesn't respect service. He doesn't respect sacrifice. He's never done it for anybody. And so this was a stunt. And it's particularly distasteful for those of us who've lost friends in these conflicts to see this kind of manipulation on Arlington National Cemetery. That's hallowed ground for us. And he should know better. But for former President Trump, anything that can help him, that's what he wants. That's the only service he's ever been in service to, is his own benefit here. So it's deeply offensive. And it doesn't really matter whether there was a physical altercation or not. He was told not to do it. So we don't want to get distracted by whether there's some tape that shows there was a push or somebody put their hands up. He was wrong to do this. He should apologize to the national veterans community and to the families.
Yeah, and you, sir, should apologize to the families for making this story more about how you feel about them instead of remembering the fallen soldiers. How about that? And these media outlets, they need to apologize too, because what happened since Monday is they made that event more about how they feel about Trump, criticizing Trump, and turning this into this whole backlash story instead of spending time recognizing those soldiers and their family. It's not like they invited these families onto the network to talk about it. They haven't. It's not like they spent any type of time going back to the event, what took place, and doing a whole story around it. They haven't. What they've been doing is criticizing Trump because they have serious Trump derangement syndrome, and that is a disrespect to the veterans out there, especially on that day. You want to criticize him? Why don't you hold off a week and then do all that? But when you're criticizing him on that day, the day after, and today, it's just a disrespect to those families. When their names should be remembered, their stories should be told, but that's being overshadowed because of the disdain they have for Trump. If this was Joe Biden, they wouldn't be saying anything. If it was Kamala Harris, they wouldn't be saying anything. They would be like, oh, look at her or look at him. They're doing exactly what a commander-in-chief should do. But because it's Trump, it's automatically wrong. So, of course, they're going to continue to ask questions around this. And they asked JD Vance today the question about this event and what his thoughts were. And I thought his response was perfect. Watch.
Hi, Senator. Good to see you again. Ali Novello with CBS News. I have two questions for you. One, could you tell us more about the altercation that happened at the Arlington Cemetery? And two, what does debate prep look like for yourself and for Trump at this time?
Well, I think, first of all, the altercation at Arlington Cemetery is the media creating a story where I really don't think that there is one. There is verifiable evidence. There is verifiable evidence that the campaign was allowed to have a photographer there. There's verifiable, they were invited to have a photographer there. There's verifiable evidence that the families of these poor people who had their loved ones die 3 years ago at Abbey Road, Abbey Gate, those 13 Americans, a lot of them were there with the president. They invited him to be there and to support them. That's not an insult to the memories of their loved ones. They wanted Donald Trump there, and thank God that we have a president who stands with our veterans instead of one who runs away from them. Now it is amazing to me that you have apparently somebody at Arlington Cemetery, some staff member, had a little disagreement with somebody, and the media has turned this into a national news story. You know what I think our veterans care a lot more about? That Kamala Harris's VP nominee lied about his military service. I think that our veterans care a lot more about that. And the other thing our veterans care a lot more about is that 3 years ago, 13 brave, innocent Americans died, and they died because Kamala Harris refused to do her job, and there hasn't been a single investigation or a single firing. Look, sometimes mistakes happen. That's just the nature of government, the nature of military service. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Perfectly said, which leads me to my final points. Number one, no investigation, no firing, no reprimand, nothing. This debacle, no one was held accountable whatsoever. August 26, 2021. So it's been 3 years. No accountability whatsoever. That is a problem. Majority of veterans. Can you find a veteran who's going to disagree with this? Yes. Can you find a veteran who's going to politically side with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? Yes, but majority of the time, absolutely not. You will not find veterans most of the time agreeing with what happened in Afghanistan and how things went down. You just won't find it, and they will be disgusted that no one was held accountable. That's point number one. Point number two, for the media, like I said earlier, and for Kamala Harris and her campaign to criticize Trump and not spend any time recognizing those soldiers, it just shows a lot about them and where they stand, which is they stand with their political party, also known as the Democratic Party, the propaganda party. You know, they do not want to see Trump back in the White House. They're absolutely deranged. They are biased as much as you can be, and they don't want to tell the truth, which leads me to point number three. The heartbreaking truth about this entire story is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has yet to call any of the family members since that event. What does that say about the government and how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris truly thinks of veterans? Now, don't take my word for it. Let's look at this article really quickly. Okay, so this is on nationalreview.com, and I just want to bring our attention to something that stood out to me the most. They state that this is a quote from a family member of one of the fallen troops, okay? President Joe Biden has never once reached out to any of our families. Kamala Harris has never reached out. The only person who has reached out to our family over and over again, and all 13 families, is Trump. I personally never heard from Vice President Harris since day one of her taking office, and we haven't heard anything from her at all. On the contrary, we have received multiple calls and messages from President Trump and his campaign. So there's that. It's just a shameful story to even talk about, that we even have this in our country. And my heart goes out to those families. That's my mindset. What about you? What do you think about JD Vance's response to these questions about the event on Monday? What do you think about CNN and MSNBC's coverage of the event and really making everything more about how they hate Trump and what he's doing versus putting attention on the actual families and what has happened to them. I want to hear what your thoughts are and more in the comments section below. If you want to support the channel, go to the link below in the description. Grab yourself a t-shirt. Stay grateful, stay focused, and stay true. Peace.